Hi, hello everybody, and hi everybody who's there online with us. My name is Pamela Richardson. I'm from the University of Sheffield in the Department of Geography, and I'm going to be introducing Sarah Wilson, who will present our paper on our reflections on empowerment through a women's WhatsApp story circle. So first of all, I'll just set the context a little bit for what was Sarah's research. So Sarah's research took place within a project called Make It Grow, which was we call it a knowledge exchange project. We were funded by an ESRC Impact Accelerator grant. And we had 18 months of funding to support community-based food organisations, so community groups with food projects, to pitch their ideas using video proposals to be able to better access startup funds and apply for grants using video proposals. Now, when the project was planned, when we got the funding, it was pre-COVID, and we were planning on going and doing in-person participatory video workshops in different countries. And of course, nothing went to plan. So over the course of 18 months, I ran 5 different online workshop series, so basically online courses, but into small groups and interactive workshops. We started on Zoom, and the process went surprisingly well. Because I'd lived for 6 years in Zimbabwe and I'd done previous action research on sustainable food, I had a lot of contacts there. So that was the only country where this thing really worked, because there was so much enthusiasm and already kind of engagement and contact with the key NGO partners and collaborators in Zimbabwe. So that's how we kind of got started. Midway through, after we'd done about 2 different courses and we'd supported about 30 different NGOs and lots of community groups to learn how to make videos, to learn how to pitch their project ideas, to make their video proposals. We commissioned some research, some studies to look at digital inclusion exclusion factors from the participants' perspective. So what was working, what was not working so well. And this particular study on digital inclusion, we really found that women were really struggling to participate in the Zoom sessions for a variety of reasons. And a lot of the participants were suggesting, can't you do this on WhatsApp? We can't join video calls, we can't join Zoom, we need to use our smartphones from rural locations, and can you do this on WhatsApp? And because our approach had been very much, as you can see from this little graphic, very much focused on small learning groups, very interactive, lots of learning by doing, sharing video clips, sharing audio clips, and giving group feedback and building that supportive learning environment. We were very nervous about moving on to WhatsApp, because we felt that presence, that co-presence in time, if not in space, was really important for building that trust and building the relationships. But we gave it a try. We went ahead and started an all-female, because women had been struggling to participate in the Zoom sessions, we set up an all-female WhatsApp learning group. And these beautiful graphics were created by one of my co-facilitators, Alexandra, Plummer, who's here on the Zoom session. And you'll see lots of her beautiful graphic notes, graphic illustrations, as well as we had live graphic notes being produced and shared on WhatsApp by Rudo Chakanyuka, who's a Zimbabwean graphic designer and filmmaker, who participated in my first workshop series, and then we managed to we started working together. So she also co-facilitated this group, this WhatsApp learning group. So kind of one of the NGOs that I worked with in the previous workshops contacted me and said, we've got this women's capacity building program running in Zimbabwe. So it was a Zimbabwean NGO. We've got this program, we normally meet in person, we normally bring lots of different women together from different communities across the country. We normally come together for 2 weeks and run lots of training programs. We can't do it. Zimbabwe, we just come out of lockdown here. Zimbabwe was still in full, really strict lockdown, but we can't bring them. Can you help us? Because they need to know how to better communicate with each other to build relationships, using their smartphones, using video. And would you be able to run a video making, story sharing workshop series? So it all kind of came together at the right time. We worked in collaboration with that organisation. We had 23 participants from across Zimbabwe, 4 facilitators. So myself, Alexandra, Plummer, Rudo, Chakanyuka, and Tzeliou. So two of us are British, 2 of us are Zimbabwean. and we worked together to co-facilitate. Sarah, who came and did a research placement with me. Sarah's in her undergraduate degree in geography at Sheffield. She came and did 10 weeks, a 10-week placement, and was so enthusiastic about the Make and Grow project that she decided to do her undergraduate dissertation alongside the project. So then Sarah came on board and did this wonderful research project, which she's now going to present to you. And I'll do the slides for you. So.
Digital storytelling has been recommended as a valuable tool for supporting women's empowerment and social change, as it creates opportunities for social context to be represented through the eyes of women. Digital storytelling workshops have traditionally been carried out as face-to-face group workshops. However, with technology becoming increasingly important in our daily lives, it is crucial to explore whether virtual storytelling workshops can effectively support women's empowerment to the same extent as in-person workshops. If so, this could make digital storytelling more accessible for more people globally. In this context, this study aimed to examine the effectiveness of using WhatsApp to facilitate the digital storytelling experience, specifically in terms of empowerment. In this presentation, we share what we've learned from participants about their own sense of empowerment, both in terms of the WhatsApp workshop process and as an outcome of their participation. Through consideration of the workshop processes and the short-term outcomes, this research highlights benefits and challenges of supporting women's empowerment with digital storytelling groups on WhatsApp. This study concludes that WhatsApp can be used as an effective platform for supporting empowerment processes through digital story circle activities. By accessing a virtual digital space, connecting with other women, developing skills, and exchanging inspiring stories, the women, ourselves included, shared a positive experience. Participating in the WhatsApp story circle enabled the women to produce audio-video stories, gain self-confidence, and develop valuable skills for future use. However, in the context of rural Zimbabwe, as in many other places, certain barriers exist which hinder some women from experiencing aspects of empowerment to the same extent as others. In order for experiences of digital storytelling to be as inclusive as possible, organisers must consider if and how access to required resources can be improved, especially for women living in rural areas of the Global South. In order to learn from the experience and assess the effectiveness of WhatsApp facilitating the digital storytelling experience, I conducted semi-structured interviews with 13 of the 23 participants. As the majority of the women were busy during the day and had children at home, scheduling the interviews was a challenge. As to avoid taking up too much of the participants' time, each interview lasted for no longer than 60 minutes. As with the workshop series, due to coronavirus restrictions, it was not possible to carry out in-person interviews. Live video interviews were also not a feasible option due to high costs of mobile data in Zimbabwe. The participants preferred to communicate through WhatsApp voice recordings, which were a practical alternative. Thematic content analysis was then used to examine interview transcripts for commonalities, relationships, and differences. An inductive approach was applied, and I explored the data through open coding, which enabled empirical codes to develop.
Let's jump straight to the results now.
Analysis revealed 4 key ways in which the WhatsApp platform facilitated empowering processes from the participants' perspective. Firstly, WhatsApp enabled the women to access an all-female virtual space. Many commented on the value of having a safe space to share ideas and experiences, free of judgment. Through embracing this freedom of expression, the participants were able to gain self-confidence and power within. One participant said, quote, "The experience was amazing being in our own female space where we could express ourselves freely without fear of being judged." Many participants also expressed that they felt empowered by connecting with other women in the WhatsApp group. According to the participants, this, quote, "feeling of oneness was enabled through the specific WhatsApp features. The ability to easily share photos, videos, and voice recordings was found to be particularly important for bringing character to the discussion. Through forming connections, the women enhanced their collaborative competence and their power with others." Furthermore, the WhatsApp platform facilitated the knowledge exchange and enhanced the participants' capabilities. Through learning new skills, the participants built up competencies which enhanced their power to produce videos and exercise agency. The women gained, quote, enlightening video making skills as well as transferable social skills for independence. One participant reflected on her sense of agency. In the interview, she said, quote, I know what I'm doing now. I don't need a journalist to come and tell the story for me in my village. I can do it myself. Finally, participants conveyed to me that the sharing of inspiring audio and video stories through WhatsApp gave them a sense of empowerment. By having their voices heard and by hearing the stories of others, the participants developed mutual support and power with one another. The visual story sharing enabled the group to actually, quote, see the importance of women coming together.
Jump through the next slide, we can just describe what's happening. Just describe the outcomes without reading.
So several outcomes of the Make It Grow workshop series demonstrate that the participants experience empowerment. And firstly, the final video stories provide clear evidence that the participants experience empowerment. They also experience improved self-esteem and power within.
From participant number 1. I just jumping ahead to the conclusions. I just skipping through the slide.
So the participants also expressed to me that they felt that they had a desire to apply their skills and knowledge and a desire to share their knowledge and new skills with others. One participant said, I shall use this knowledge that I've gained in the future to show other women how to be self-reliant and make use of their skills and gifts. Overall, this aspiration to support other women shows that the participants hold the potential to enhance their power with others. So in conclusion, with a focus on empowerment, my study aims to explore the effectiveness of using WhatsApp for facilitating an all-female online digital storytelling workshop. This research used interviews to examine how female participants in rural Zimbabwe experience empowerment in the Make It Grow WhatsApp sessions. In conclusion, I found that many participants experienced empowerment to a great extent through participating in digital storytelling activities on WhatsApp. However, we do not propose an all-out celebration. There were several barriers to access and participation that were found to have restricted experiences of empowerment. Although the workshop series had a largely empowering effect, technological challenges and internet connection issues had hindered participation and thus empowerment for many. Some women actually felt disempowered and marginalized further as they missed sessions due to commitments to childcare and work. This study argues that the structural causes of unequal access require further exploration, as women across rural Zimbabwe feel, quote, limited and are unable to fully experience the advantages of digital technology. This research contributes to the diverse literature on empowerment and digital storytelling through providing a situated case study of a project with women in rural Zimbabwe. The vast majority of digital storytelling literature addresses traditional in-person workshops. In contrast, this study demonstrated the benefits and challenges of remotely facilitating an online digital storytelling experience through WhatsApp. Remote facilitation of WhatsApp learning groups could have much potential for inclusion of hard-to-reach groups in story sharing and ICT skills development. Despite the challenges, participants and researchers felt that overall, the WhatsApp platform worked effectively for supporting solidarity, learning, sharing, and community building. Thank you.
Yeah, you've been very
we managed to squeeze 15 into now.
It was magic. Which is so good. Great. Thank you. Okay, so the next team.
So that was brilliant. And I mean, you've been kicking off in the big space after a keynote, squeezing in 9 minutes. I think the next one are online.
Yes, exactly.
So we've got our chair, Sarah.
Hello, so welcome everyone. I'll step back so you can see me. We have the next 3 presentations are online, and we're very excited to bring people to you from across the world, including Greece. So we have a presentation called Rise Up and Express Yourself, Femicides in Greece in 2020 and 21. We have a team of 3. 2 will be speaking today, Evika, Karamagioli, and Effie, Giannou. They also are accompanied by Michalis, Meimaris, who is here in the for reals, I would like to say. Thank you, Michalis, for being here with us. Our team is going to present in 9 to 10 minutes. We'll start the clock as soon as we get them queued up. Do we have our first speaker?
Could we ask the speakers to switch that camera on and let us know if they are online? Michalis, do you see your colleagues online? No? Okay. Can move to the next one.
Okay. Our next speakers are going to be speaking about My Masculinity, the digital narratives of challenges and overcoming difficulties of being a man in Turkey. We have Canan, Dural, Tasouji, and Nermin, Alkan, sorry, without the eyeglasses, I can't see so well. All right, do we have our 2 speakers at the ready? There we go, Canan.
Am I ready?
You should be able to
And
share
Nermin.
your screen.
And Nermin, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Here you are. Can you
Great.
see?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
And go right ahead. Do your hellos.
Okay.
And
Hello, everybody from Turkey. Nermin, my colleague, and I'm here to present our paper. It's a joint paper and produced from digital story workshops created from our master classes with 3 men. So it's My Masculinity. I can start if you're ready. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, masculinity is a gender-based issue, you know. That is to say, young men who grow up as being expected to read socially and culturally constructed patterns of masculinity try to survive by meeting social norms and expectations on the one hand, and by seeking the ways to cope with pressure and overcoming the difficulties, obstacles they face, and establish their own masculinity on the other. Various factors, including the geography, they live, the social class they belong to, educational status, and familial influences produce an important part in the process of the construction of masculinity and associated masculine gender identity, and developing their own tactics for dealing with situations and circumstances. Hegemonic masculinity, that is a form of male resistance of patriarchy. Along with the stress and anxiety and tension created by situations such as environmental and personal difficulties, changes in living conditions, religion, unemployment, migration, as well as social crisis, there is also talk of a disruption in the functioning of masculinity, which is described as masculinity crisis. And when coming to study, the study examines process of the construction of masculinity in Turkey and experiences of the participants in their own masculinity program by coping with the difficulties that they experience in their lives. Through narratives selected from the digital stories that emerged from the digital storytelling workshop conducted under the name of My Masculinity. And workshop consists of personal narratives of 3 young male participants from different sociocultural backgrounds and their own experiences of masculinity in Turkish society. As the subject of the study, the construction of masculinity, which is examined in the field of masculinity studies, is addressed on the basis of male narratives created in the digital story workshop and masculinity experiences gained through overcoming difficulties. This study focused on the digital storytelling of 3 male students, as I mentioned before, who attended the 1 semester master's lecture in digital storytelling at the Faculty of Communication, Mersin University. Our digital storytelling workshops began in January and ended in May, when the semesters and the lecture began and ended. And our workshops were hybrid. That is the way we could come together face to face, and sometimes we meet online. Permission for all data presented at this conference was obtained from the students who produced the data. And the students gave their consent and were very excited about the idea of their stories being shared and presented at this conference. The faculty has provided us with a computer room equipped with 12 PC with internet connection, digital camera, scanner, and printer, to which students have access at all time. And when coming to workshops, the first 2 weeks were about students understanding and evaluation of what the digital story is. We have created an environment where students can actively think about and discuss being a man in Turkey. And then we began the individual process of creating digital stories. First, students shared their stories in the story circle. We gave students time to write their stories, play with them, and change them as they wish. Then they recorded their stories. They chose their images and matched the story and images in the story chart, and then they produced media and visual content on a platform of their choice. Finally, we got together. It was an online session, and watched and discussed the stories together. Here you can see some screenshots from our last session when we were watching Alper's story and then Baki's story. Here, Nermin and me and our participants. Yeah, if we have time, we are very excited to let you watch 2 different stories produced in my masculinity workshop. Here is the first one, Alper's story.
Ben Adana'da Hürriyet Mahallesi'nde engelli bir erkek olarak dünyaya gözlerimi açtım. Bedensel engelli olmamdan dolayı tekerlekli sandalyeyle hareket edebiliyorum. Farklı dönemlerde yaşadığım sağlık sorunlarımla da mücadele etmem gerekiyordu. Yaşadığım mahalle kültürü erkek olmaktan kaynaklanan birçok şeyi yapma şansı ve fırsatı tanımaktaydı. Çünkü erkeğin üstün olduğunu düşünen bir kültürün içerisindeydim. Eril bir söylem olarak yakın çevremden duyduğum erkek adam okur, çalışır, aile kurar ve geçim sağlar şeklinde bir dizi sözlerdi. Bu bilindik sorumluluk ve hakları yakın çevreniz ve toplum sağlıklı erkek bireyler için tanımaktadır. Engelliyseniz durum çok daha farklıdır. Çünkü evin dışındaki yaşam sizin için uygun değildir. Okula başlayacağım dönem kendi yaşıtlarım gibi okula gitmek istediğimi hayal meyal hatırlıyorum. O dönemde ilk defa değildi belki ama benim etkilendiğim nasıl okuyacak bu çocuk, arkadaşlarına uyum sağlayabilecek mi, gibi eş dostun telkinlerinden sonuç olarak ailem de etkilendi. Tereddütlerini dile getirme biçimi olarak da yapamazsın oğlum, küçük kardeşim var. Seninle ilgilenmekte zorlanırız şeklinde sürüp giden bir dizi konuşmayı dinledim. Ancak vazgeçmeyen tavrım sonucunda okula yazıldım. Ortaokulda ise Türkçe öğretmenimin liseye geçiş sınavında okul birincisinden daha fazla net yapamazsın demesi sonrasında Türkçe dersinde 30 soruda 28 doğru, 2 boş ile arkadaşımı geçmeme verdiği tepkiyi hala hatırlıyorum. Liseyi açık öğretimden okuduktan sonra Anadolu Üniversitesi'nin açık öğretim programında yaşadığım kişisel başarısızlığım sonrasında tekrar üniversite sınavına hazırlandım. Çukurova Üniversitesi İletişim Fakültesi İletişim Bilimleri bölümünü görüp araştırmam sonrasında çevremden yine yapamazsın, nasıl olacak, her gün üniversiteye gitmen gerekebilir, not bile alamıyorsun gibi şeyleri duydum. Belirli bir şekilde kararlılığımı gösterdiğim zaman ise yerine destek olmalara bıraktı. Üniversitede sonradan öğrendiğim kadarıyla hocaların bile ilk başlarda okulu bitireceğimden şüphe duymuşlar. Tabii o da zaman içerisinde büyük bir desteğe dönüştü. Bölüm 4. olarak lisans eğitimimi tamamladım. Ancak benim ideallerim, kendimi gerçekleştirmem için yapmam gerektiğini düşündüğüm önemli bir adım daha vardı. Bunun için de Adana'dan dışarıya çıkmamış ailemi yüksek lisans eğitimi almak üzere Mersin'e taşınmaya ikna etmem gerekiyordu. Şimdi Mersin'de yüksek lisans ders dönemimin sonlarına yaklaşıyorum. Tüm yapamazsınlar yerine başarılara bıraktı. Bundan sonra ise kariyer yaşamımda üstlerimin yapamazsınlarına karşı da mücadele etmek üzere hazır olmak zorundayım. Bir engelli erkek olarak başta yakın çevremdeki insanlara karşı olmak üzere verdiğim ikna etme ve kendimi kanıtlama çabamın yanı sıra bireysel gelişimim için bile engelliliğimden kaynaklanan dezavantajlı görünme durumundan kurtulmaya çalışmak da ayrı bir mücadele alanı olarak karşımda yer alıyor.
And our second story from Baki.
Benim hikayem 5 Eylül 1995 sonbaharında Mersin'de Beyhan ve Baytekin çiftinin 3. çocukları olarak dünyaya gelmekle başladı. Anne ve babamın hayat tercihleri, ailecek göçebe bir yaşam sürmesi, Türklerimizi belli bir bölgede bırakıp aidiyet duygumuzun oluşmamasına neden oldu. Başlarda aile olabilmek güzel tat veriyordu. Lakin zamanla sorunlar baş göstermeye başladı ve günlerin tadı kaçtı. Önce ekonomik sorunlar, sonra da en büyük kardeşim olan ağabeyimin problemleri. Ağabeyime uzun uzadıya değinmek isterdim ancak bağışın hikayesi yarım kalanlardan. Serseri bir yaşam, kötü alışkanlıklar ve cezaevinde geçen zamanlar. En nihayetinde ise 22 yaşında biten bir ömür. Ailem onu kaybetmemeye uğraşırken ve hayat mücadelesi için bir o tarafa bir bu tarafa koşuştururken kenarda kıyıda kendi kendine gülmeye çalışan ablam ve ben. Ailecek gittiğimiz pikniklerin o çam kokusu, yediğimiz etlerin leziz tadı, oynadığımız oyunların neşesi ve aynı bize katılan yeni bir rüya. Abimin vefatından 8 yıl önce dünyaya gelen ufak kardeşim şimdilerde sırma boyu bir delikanlı. Kardeşlerim cefakar ailem, emekçi babam bir kenara, lisede gazetecilik eğitimiyle başlayan bir ben var ki halen ben olmaya çalışan, azimli, çalışkan ve neşeli. İlkokulda en büyük hayalim olan Türkiye'yi hatta dünyayı karış karış gezme arzum beni üniversite zamanlarında yollara düşürdü. Maddi gücümün her şeye yetmemesi, hayallerimin peşinden gitmeme asla engel değildi. Otostopla başlayan yolculuklarım, yeni insanlarla tanışma arzum, tarihi yerleri çıplak gözle görme isteğim ve hiç bitmeyen merakım. Türkiye'nin birçok farklı iline gittim. Yollarda bir sürü unutulmaz deneyimler yaşadım. Kainatın en temiz havasını çektiğim ormanlık alanlarda yıldızların altında uyudum. Antik Yunanlıların yüzdüğü koylarda güneşlendim. bu deneyimlerimi hiçbir şeyle değişmem. 2015 yılında Flaman dilini öğrenip 3 haftalığına gittiğim Belçika günleri ise hafızalarımda halen taptaze. Özgürlük şehri Amsterdam, çikolata şehri Bruges, üniversite için önce Antalya, daha sonra Adana ve mezuniyet bitiminde oradan da Ankara. Kürkçü dükkanına dönüş ise hazin bir hikaye. Mersin, çocukluk ve lisanlıların olduğu, ailemin yaşadığı, şimdilerde master yaptığım şehir. Unutulmaz lise yıllarımdan arkadaşlıklarım halen devam ediyor. Ablamın hayat tercihleri doğrultusunda dönmek zorunda olduğum bu şehirden uzaklaşmak için şimdilerde çok çalışıyorum. Her zaman hayatı yönetemezsiniz. Coğrafya kader midir bilmem. Ama aile kaderdir. Halen dünyanın her yerini arşınlamak istiyorum. Akademik kariyer ise hayallerimden sadece biri. Her şey mükemmel olmasa da yıldızlara hedef alıyorum. Ulaşamasam da göğe yükselirim.
The last sentences make us very, very good. Then I can continue.
She can
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to have to read your line. Sorry, we're ready to go to the
Okay.
next one, but
Just-
with this slide.
Just 2 or 3 page. Yeah, to conclude, Alper's story shows us the struggle of a man born disabled in Turkey, fighting for existence despite all obstacles, and his efforts to go beyond the stereotypes expected of a disabled man. And coming to Baki's story, it is the story of a man who burdened the responsibility of the family he was born into, which he sees as his destiny, but at the same time challenges the existing norms of masculinity with the effort of self-realization. Stories produced in my Masculinity digital storytelling workshop provides a detailed picture of being a man in Turkey, where society and everyday practices are increasingly permitted by gender-based expectations. Stories included the man's emotions, responses, and the tactics that they use to resist expectations and to overcome the obstacles created by patriarchal hegemony in their daily lives. The stories that emerged in the workshop, My Masculinity, gave our participants the opportunity to become aware of their life experiences as men in Turkey, and they realized the importance of creating and sharing their stories and lived experiences. Seeing and hearing their lived experiences as digital stories encouraged them in their struggle being a man. So, first of all, thank you for your attention. And I want to thank to Nermin, my friend, and our participants, Alper, Baki, and Naci. And first, the last thank please goes to Burcu Şimşek, because from Hacettepe University, and she, in I think 2009, she let us to meet with digital storytelling. Because of her, we are here. So thank you for your attention and patience.
Thank you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will have some questions at the end, so we will quickly go. We're going to do a quick U-turn and go back to the presentation, Rise Up and Express Yourself, Femicides in Greece in 2020 and 2021. We have 2 presenters that are here with us remotely, Evika, Karamagioli, and Effie, Giannou. They are also joined here in the theater by their colleague, Michalis, Meimaris. Do we have Evika ready?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm
Oh, right.
really sorry. I was, can you hear me?
10
So I was actually in room 2. Okay,
Hold on.
so
10 minutes is your time. So
10
I will
minutes, yes, I got it. Thank you.
And
So I
welcome.
will, I will be presenting you a project that we have implemented in the previous academic year with Professor Meimaris and Effie Giannou. The title is Rise Up and Express Yourself. It was inspired by this femicide phenomenon that is currently in a big race, not only in Europe, but especially in Greece. And the whole idea was to use the digital storytelling methodology in order to capture from one side the public view on this phenomena, and the second to see if and how we could consider digital storytelling as a mechanism for self-expression and civic engagement toward this phenomenon. I will start up with a story so that you could get a little bit the feeling. Actually, is one of the stories that were created during the project. I will share my screen. So normally now you can see my screen, and I will go directly to the story. Please let me know if you can hear. Can you hear it?
Το όνομά μου είναι Ελένη. Έχω τα φύκια στα μαλλιά μου να βλέπω. Το όνομά μου είναι Καρολάιν. Μέσα στον ύπνο μου τα χέρια του βλέπω. Το όνομά μου είναι Βελφαλιά. Ήταν οι κακές στιγμές και χάλασε η φάση. Το όνομά μου είναι Άννα. Είναι καταγγελία το χρόνο. Ποιος να χάσει. Το όνομά μου είναι Σταυρούλα. Και η απόρριψη ήταν, λέει, η αιτία. Το όνομά μου είναι Τιβία. Δεν έπεσε τη σκάλα, δεν έζησε με στη βία. Το όνομά μου είναι Δώρα. Η ζήλια του το ήξερα.
17 γυναικοκτονίες συμπληρώνησαν το Πανελλήνιο μόνο το 2021. Η μάστιγα αυτή δεν σταματά. Μαρτυρίες που σε κάνουν να ανατριχιάζεις. Οι γυναίκες που χάθηκαν άδικα από τα χέρια των ανθρώπων που αγάπησαν. Τους στέρισαν τη ζωή στο όνομα της αγάπης. Σκέφτομαι το παρελθόν μου, τις παλιές μου σχέσεις. Σκέφτομαι αν θα μπορούσα να είμαι ακόμα μια γυναίκα στον κατάλογο των θυμάτων. Η αδερφή μου, η κολλητή μου. Σκέφτομαι τις μανούλες που σπαράζουν από τον κόσμο. Θα μπορούσε να είναι δική μου μάνα. Αναρωτιέμαι τι θα έκανε. Ναι, θα μπορούσε. Σε εκείνες συνέβη. Αβίαστα, ανασύρω από τη μνήμη μου τον Μάρτιο του 2012. Ξυπνούν κακές αναμνήσεις. Το τηλέφωνο χτυπά ξαφνικά. Τρέχω να το σηκώσω. Ένιωθα περίεργα εκείνη τη μέρα, μα δεν ήξερα το λόγο. Η μητέρα μου με τρεμάμενη φωνή. Μαρίνα, η φίλη σου Νικούλα, που είχατε μεγαλώσει μαζί, έφυγε. Τι έφυγε, τι έγινε, ουρλιάζω. Τη στραγγάλισε ο άντρας της και την πέταξε στο κρυμμό. Πάγωσα. Δεν μπορούσα να άρθρωσω λέξη. Πώς, γιατί, αναπάντητα ερωτήματα με κατακλείζουν. Ήταν μόλις 24 χρονών, με ένα μωρό ενός έτους. Νόμιζα πως ήταν ευτυχισμένη. Αναπληρώ την παιδική μας ηλικία, τα όνειρά μας, τα παιχνίδια μας. Αυτή την εξέλιξη δεν τη φανταζόμουν ποτέ. Στην ηλικία των 25 συνειδητοποίησα το τέλος της ανθρωπιτάς μου. Αντιλήφθηκα πως η αγάπη δίχως όρους δεν σε κάνει κρίμα κανενός. Ανήκω σε μένα, ζω για εμένα. Η ύπαρξή μου ολάκερη, ψυχήτε και σώματι. Θα επιστρέψω στη δημιουργό φύση όταν εκείνη το αποφασίσει και όχι από την αγάπη σου.
So this was one of the stories produced. I will try to go very quickly again once more in the presentation. So the project, sorry for that. Can you see my presentation?
No.
Okay, can you see it? Yes?
No.
No, you cannot. Okay. So I will go to the share screen. Now you see it, right? Can you see it now? Okay, great. All right, so it was the idea of the project was this phenomenon of femicide cases in Greece that we had this rise. Theoretically and based on the international literature, storytelling can and is considered as a powerful tool regarding the advocacy effort against violence regarding women. The idea was to explore the use of storytelling, of digital storytelling, as a form of social sensitization and awareness. And our main two questions were how the public, as I told you, can feel regarding psychosocial and emotional suffering of women. And the second one was if and how the personal stories could be considered as a powerful tool for social engagement and social activism. The method was, we asked students to create their own personal digital stories. One powerful and the one important part in our effort was the process of creating the stories. They were asked to produce the content, meaning the story, the storyboard, the video, the pictures that they used. And we focused a lot on this process of story circle. Why that? Because we consider that the whole, let's say, attractiveness of digital storytelling is how you can talk the story out from the scratch and until it's really produced. For the evaluation, we used qualitative and quantitative analysis, the PLA structure and the PLA methodology for the story circle process. And we also explored the data using the Atlas methodology. This is a cloud where you can see the initial content of what was mentioned in the different stories. The most important issues and the most important terms used was stop violence, no tolerance, inclusiveness, domestic violence, the role of the school, and no woman should be left alone. The results show that, first of all, we can really showcase that digital storytelling can be used as a self-expression tool. What was also clear is that it can be a way of activism in the sense that the people that produce a story, the people that discuss their story, the people that talk to their families, their network about the stories they create, in a way they express themselves, and the stories can shape a broader discourse. And there is also this good enough screen concept of Professor Meimaris that was well documented in the sense that the screen can be a powerful tool for engagement and for self-expression. As I have only 10 minutes, I will stop sharing, and I would like to show you another story, this time created by a man, which also is interesting to see because in our group we had also men. So let me give me 1 second. Here it is, and it will be this one. Please tell me if you can hear. Can you hear it? Can you hear the story?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
So you can see it, right? Okay.
Λίγο σχολείο που φτάσει σε αυτιά. και ίσως θα εξασφαλίσω. Τελικά είναι ένας από αυτούς. Τι μπορεί να γίνει. Τώρα πια βέβαια είναι εύκολο να κρατάμε ουδετερότητα και ίσες αποστάσεις. Αυτό το πράγμα που κάνουμε είναι να καταδικάζουμε τα γεγονότα. Και έχουμε την ψευδαίσθηση ότι κάναμε το καθήκον μας. Και όλα κυλάνε κανονικά. Η διαταραχτή ήσυχη ζωή μας. Δεν γίνεται να ξεχνάμε. Εδώ μεγαλώσαμε και πρέπει να πέρα. Φταίμε όλοι μας. Λάσσετα, διατρούκλες, οι δίθεν προστάτες του κουτιού. Επόμενο αλλά ανακόφευτο. Έχω προκαλέσει και έχω υπάρξει παρόν σε καταστάσεις βίας. Είμαι κι εγώ αυτός. Στο πρόσωπό τους αναγνωρίζω το δικό μου. Και κάθε μέρα που περνά, προσπαθώ να κάνω την αυτοκριτική μου. Να αλλάξω ό,τι πιθανόν μπορεί να πληγώσει έναν άλλον άνθρωπο. Ποτέ δεν είναι αργά. Το αγάπη και εκτυπικότητα κρατάσαμε. Το σεβασμό και η εμπιστοσύνη.
So that was it. Give me one moment. I think that it's interesting to see this dialectic way that the first story and the last story have showed. It's a way of dialogue, a civic dialogue, and what we have achieved through these stories. I hope I was in the 10 minutes. I don't know if I was.
We're good to finish up now. Thank you so much for your
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Your audience is clapping. We have our final presentation. I would like to introduce the presentation, Constructing Gender Identities Through Digital Storytelling, Empowerment, and Objectification. We have two speakers, George Metaxiotis and Konstantina Tzeliou. So go ahead, are we going to start with George?
Hello, everybody. I'll start the presentation. So our paper is about constructing gender identities and the relation with digital storytelling, how digital storytelling practices are affected by these practices of gender identity construction. We will focus on the idea and the concept of objectification. Why deal with gender and storytelling? In our research and our workshops, most of the participants and storytellers are females. A second very important reason is that there are very distinctive topics that are gender related, so it is an important variable. And so, for example, through a thematic analysis, we can see that some topics appear equally in both sexes stories like game, adventure, accident, antagonism, but other themes like fear, dream, sympathy, caring, family are much more common in female-only stories. Another reason to deal with gender and storytelling is that some topics may seem neutral or positive, like dreams and fantasy, but some are more connected with real life, huge negative problems like social exclusion, domestication, domestic abuse and violence, gender pay gap, and even femicide, as you have seen in the previous presentation. And all these problems are somehow connected to objectification. We can see that in theoretical literature about storytelling, especially from a feminist perspective. So the aim of this presentation is, of this research, is to identify gender construction practices, not only in personal storytelling that we find in our workshops by participants in our workshops, but also we try to find if there is some similar patterns with feminist public narrative practices, like the discourses we find in literature, in advertisement, and in artistic areas. So objectification has been a very popular concept through the second wave feminism or the third wave feminism or queer theory, and has very strong negative connotations. These connotations are coming from, especially from Marxist and feminist studies. Objectification is considered as a synonym for ideology, alienation, or Lukács' reification process. In in popular discourses, objectification means usually treating a person as an object, dehumanizing this person, and the consequences are both direct, like depression, eating disorders, low self-confidence, mental health issues that disproportionately affect women, but also long-term effects, more indirect effects that I mentioned earlier, like violence and femicide and the gender pay gap. So the problem with objectification that I found in trying to make an analysis and understand and study digital stories is that objectification may be a negative element in feminist theories or in Marxist theory, but we find it everywhere. So we find it in many feminist groups like Femen that use, for example, objectification as a way to promote a feminist agenda, but also we find it in everyday digital storytelling in our workshops. Although we do workshops in schools, for example, nudity, for example, is prohibited, many female participants find it very empowering to show themselves in wearing a swimsuit or a summer outfit. And this practice is not something with a negative connotation. And we find sometimes that objectification is even found in women's stories about the men. For example, in this story that was about stray dogs in Greece, you can see that a handsome young man is compared to a dog. Of course, this is done in a humorous way, but I just wanted to show that it is a very big difference between objectifying someone who is in a powerful group, and it is a very completely different thing when objectification is addressing women or minority groups that have much more less power, and this is not about sarcasm or self-sarcasm and humor. Another practice that we can find of objectification that is not negative according to feminist or Marxist theory, but has a lot of positive values. I'll show you pictures from two stories, and I will just tell you the script. On the left side, we have a story that is called The Lipstick. And in this story, the girl uses the lipstick, which is an object and a symbol of objectification, of female objectification, but she transforms it into a painting tool to paint the walls of her room and the living room, and of course they fight with her mother afterwards. And another story is a girl trying to fit her mother's clothes when she's not at home. And again, for a feminist approach, we could say that, sorry, I can't see the chat. Okay. In a feminist approach, it could be just a victimization case and the use of objectification, giving focus to external appearance instead of showing a human person. But what we see in the story, if we look closer, we see that this is a very positive kind of objectification because she tries her mother's clothes because her mother is independent, she is powerful, she has a job, she's a professional teacher, and she wants to become like her mother. So again, this is a case of positive objectification. Another case of practices that we find objectification having a positive effect is the creation of fake objective selves, like in the case of multiple identities. For example, on the left, we see a story called My Story. A woman is assuming the role of a stuffed toy, plus in order to speak about oppression, objectification, but also freedom and love that this toy experienced through its life. So it's a metaphor. The narrator, the female storyteller, is telling her story through a toy. So again, she identifies and she objectifies herself, but only in order to be heard and be more empowered and more liberated. And on the left story, we have a story called 100 Sisters, and it is about a girl who assumes 100 different identities, and every time her parents scold about some mischief, she said, I didn't do this, my sister did that, and give names to fictional sisters that she have. So these practices that we find in our projects about and has to do with objectification, but has nothing to do with negative objectification. They are rather empowering. We find similar practices and we make this comparison with feminist practices in artistic or in activist contexts. For example, Lynn Herman Leeson is an artist, and during the 90s, she did this experiment with on the right side, you see Roberta Brightmore. It's a fictional character she assumed for many years. And this impersonation, this use of a kind of mask, of a fake self, this was a type of objectification, and it helped her, empowered her, and liberated her. Another case is the Black women artists that practice performances through the last century. Yuri Macmillan suggests that all these cases of performances are purposeful uses of self-objectification in terms of empowerment. So again, we have the use of a positive side of self-objectification. Of course, we have the case in feminist activism and art, and the case of C.D. Sherman, who has influenced many feminist artists, not only, and looks like storytelling, because she always presents in her photographs, all the photographs are staged, and she objectifies herself, she even sexualizes her body in order to exploit herself, and this is an empowering and liberating process for her. For many reasons, through this self-objectification, she manages to get empowered. Another case is the Guerrilla Girls, a feminist group that protests against exclusion of women artists by the museums and other cultural institutions. And the case of the mask is important, and we find it in many cases, not in many stories, they don't use the mask, but this is a kind of, we see this practice of mask using as a case to create a collective identity. And we have in many stories of our workshops, many individual female female storytellers that do not want to tell an individual story, and they want to tell a collective story. So this is a very typical case of not wanting to come as an actual person, and prefer to be objectified, so that they present or give more focus to the may be fake and objectified, but collective identity. What we see on the left is a very good performance that was given after the great protests, women protests in Poland for the anti-abortion vote. And what we see here in the black and white picture does look like a story circle, and it combines a story circle with a round table, which is a symbol of power. And in this performance, we have women with balaclavas, with masks, direct reference to other feminist movements and feminist protests in Latin America and Spain, with a reference to the Zapatista movement. And what happens in these performances is that they showcase, you see a screen on the back of the round table, and they showcase some very important stories of important women. They select some stories of personal stories of women. So there are many types of objectifications that are not negative, that are positive. They can be used A, to reaffirm dominant identities or present some kind of security. B, can reappropriate materials and empower social excluded minority identities. Or C, allow crossing between multiple identities and facilitate transformation. Why is it important to understand that objectification has a very positive side? We can see that objectification is not just a negative effect, it's a necessary process of identity construction. And this understanding will help us avoid many post-feminist misinterpretations that consider multiplicity of identities as relativism and subjectivity. For post-feminism, identities are just free choices, and an actor is objectified according to who is telling the story. If I don't like you, I may objectify you, and this is something I can do. But this is something that does not stand in any epistemological or scientific methodology. So in a non-essentialist approach, objectification is not just an interpretation, is not just a linguistic arbitrary construct and not an interpretation, but also a methodology that has to be also biological and sociological, and always depends on agency constructed by power relations. And as a result, the use of objectification practices in the construction of gender identities is important, because we as facilitators need to be aware that while critical approaches of negative objectification are necessary for macro sociological analysis, there are also several practices of positive objectification that are necessary for storytellers to construct and perform their gender identities. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, George. We're on tight time, so we're going to take one question for each of the presentations. If we would like to go to the live audience with a question.
For Canan, like, so how do the women actually make stories and how do you make stories? Like, and make it?
Could you please come closer to here to respond so that we can hear you? Yeah, so yeah, they want to see you in the camera.
Yes, it did. The participants, it took place over 8 or 9 weeks, and each week the workshops would build up the skills. So we were starting with things like learning about camera handling, shot type, then storytelling, narrative art, and then they all kind of started to create audio stories that were shared in small WhatsApp groups, and they gave each other feedback. And then they learned about storyboarding. So it was kind of like an incremental process over the weeks. And some of the participants only got as far as the audio stories, and they didn't go on to edit videos. But we had about 10 who created edited video stories. And we set the story theme, which was linked to the NGO, the program that we were kind of operating within. So they shared stories about power of women coming together to transform community. And they did those, most of the stories weren't individual, they were collective. So the people that were participating in the WhatsApp video making workshops and story circles would then go and host live workshops in their own communities, so live circles. So some of the videos that were created were very kind of collaborative, community-based stories. Some of it, like we had one woman who wrote a poem and then created more like a conventional kind of digital story. You know, she had a poem with her voice, and then put lots of photos and video footage edited together to accompany it. So there's a real variety of different outcomes. Yeah, but that's how it worked.
Thank you very much. I'm checking our chat box, and I'm not seeing one in this moment. But what I would like to ask is for Evika and Effie and with Michalis' team, how you came up with that idea to have the women's bodies just dropping onto the court one after another. There seemed like a lot of similar imagery that we heard just from George talking about the women that were masked, and you end up with a collective identity. You really have taken away the identities with the women that are just dropping dead. And I was just wondering if you could speak to that idea, where that came from and what you hope to achieve with that. And maybe George can pop in there. George, did you hear the question, the comment?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so I was curious about the piece where you had the women in masks, right, and the collective identity that you mentioned. And I was also noticing the very powerful imagery in the Femicides piece, where the women their bodies were dropping, and also the chalk outline. And I wondered if you saw relationship between that work and your own.
Yes, I did see some connection, of course. Of course, this is a completely different perspective. The group, the colleagues that presented in the previous presentation did present a project, a proper digital storytelling process that concluded and had the result of these nice stories that we see. And mine is more of a theoretical perspective of how we deal as facilitators, and how can produce some kind of literacy to help make better stories. For example, what I have seen in my stories, in our workshops, is that the participants often spoke in abstract terms about somebody else. They speak about opinions. This is the biggest problem that I find in the workshops. They don't speak about experiences they have. It is very difficult. And sometimes this process is to speak about traumatizing process. I had in my workshops cases where cases of rape or depression and sexual abuse, and but while in the written process it was very easy for them to express themselves. It was more easy. It's never easy, but it was more easy. While in the story circle, things are getting more light. So the story circle seems to be not a very safe process. So many stories are lost in this road. I think, of course, it's very difficult to make a very safe digital story workshop. It's very, very difficult. And all stories that are very overtly dramatic or overtly traumatizing, I think they become more light when they come to the story circle, because other people are listening. We understand that it is not very safe to speak about these traumatizing experiences. So yes, I think that literacy about gender and in general should help. If we understand how other activists and feminist artists have used these cases of gender, this will help people open up and speak more freely about their real personal traumatic experiences, instead of just saying an opinion, which is the easy way. Again, it's nice to hear a story, a personal opinion from someone, but you know, the powerful stories are not the essay-like stories, are the personal experience stories. And this is what we try to make, but again, it is very difficult.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank all of our panelists today, both near and far. It's been a lovely afternoon with you. This does complete our program. The flight is over and our doors are here. Thank you all. It's been glorious.